maybe you've heard this levels of thinking thing. I learned about it actually through playing Magic, but I believe it originated with poker. I think there was actually a book about it. The general idea is that, as you play, in this case, poker or some strategic card game like Magic, that there's sort of levels of thinking that you can go through, where I think it's something like level 0 is, I'm just going to instinctually play the stuff I have. And then there's like a level 1 where you're a little more strategic about it. And there's like a level 2 where I think you then open up your mindset to, I wonder what my opponent has. And it goes through like level 4 or 5, becoming like sort of increasingly more complex, where toward the end of the chain, you're sort of thinking like, okay, what does my opponent have that he's going to do knowing what he thinks I have kind of thing. So you get to kind of like this, he knows that I know that he knows that I know kind of world. So I was at the gym the other day, and there was this guy who was talking to somebody else. I just happened to overhear what they were talking about. And the guy, very in good shape, pretty muscular. And he says, I'm going to ruin this like clean streak for my body and just ruin it on Sunday with crab fries and beer. Like something like that. Like the idea was that he had for a while, I guess, been, really on top of his like diet and nutrition and everything else, and been very, conscientious about that sort of thing. And he had an event coming up, it sounded like on Sunday, where he was going to go and like have a bunch of beer and like pizza and wings or like whatever. It got me thinking of sort of like a level of thinking model that one could apply to their own like dieting, nutrition, physique kind of thing. Like for those who, again, spend time at a gym working on their physique and their nutrition is built around that and all that kind of stuff. So it seems to me that, a level 0 of thinking about this would be just no connection whatsoever, or no thought about the connection between, what you're eating, like what you're putting in your body, versus compared to no connection from that to here's how my body looks and feels. To me, this is like what a child is, right? Like a child doesn't sit around and think to themselves, well, I'm having a piece of candy now, and that probably means that in a couple of hours I'm going to be extra hungry because my blood pressure or my blood sugar probably spikes and it's going to make me more hungry. Like, or there's going to be a rush of energy and then I'm going to crash. Like they don't, nor do they think like, oh, I'm eating a burger. Geez, I'm going to feel really bloated later, or I'm going to put on 2 pounds, or like, to them, they just eat. You just eat food, and it's completely disconnected from your physical. And a child probably isn't the best example, frankly, because they're also, growing, and there's a whole bunch of other factors there. But I'm just using it as kind of an example. So like level 0 thinking here would be no connection whatsoever. Like you eat whatever you want, and you at no point consider what the ramifications are going to be on your physical body. Level 1 would be connecting those two things and understanding that, like, the stuff I eat has some sort of direct impact on how I look and feel throughout the day. This is the sort of thing that as you get a little bit older or whatever, you start to connect these ideas. And this level of thinking, I think, becomes very pervasive in like, if you're just starting to go down like a fitness and nutrition road, where people start holding themselves very strictly because they start thinking to themselves, oh, I really shouldn't eat this burger because it's going to have a very direct impact on my, physical appearance and whatever, or my nutritional values or, whatever. And it kind of gets overdone, right? But it's kind of like a level 1 thinking, like you have connected the idea of, I put stuff in my body and it has some sort of impact, whether that's a visual impact or just how you feel or whatever. A level 2 thinking would then kind of bring in the idea of, sometimes it's okay to have that burger. Like a cheat here and there is an okay thing. And the reason it's a level, like another level up, is because eventually once you've been very strict with yourself and how you eat, you eventually learn that if you're really on point, like 95% of the time, that last 5 to 10% of the time does not make a negative, like a substantial negative impact on things. In fact, to the contrary, that last 5 to 10%, cheating a little bit here and there, it kind of makes the other 90% more tolerable to some people. It can have some physical benefits too, just kind of varying some stuff up and getting some extra, kind of junkier calories into your diet. There are some positives to that. Again, not all the time, but on occasion. So this level 2 is like understand. So now you've connected that it matters what goes in your body. You've kind of overdone that a little bit. And now you're realizing, you know what? It's okay once in a while to have something that isn't part of this strict regimen. Level 3 thinking becomes then actually, technically speaking, that cheat does have a negative impact. So it's almost the reverse of level 2. But here's the distinction. It's understanding that there is a negative consequence, but that negative consequence is short term. So the idea being like, yeah, you go out and you have a big cheat meal or a cheat day, you're going to be a little extra like bloated and like ruined and maybe not feel the best for like a day or two afterwards. But it's understanding that that impact is short term. And that doesn't mean in those next 2 days that you have to like tank your calories or go on some kind of water detox or like whatever to somehow come back from that one cheat day. That instead, your body will clear that like on its own. Because again, 95% of the time, you're on point. Going for that 5% to go cheat a little bit is completely fine. And you don't need to then overcompensate on the other side of that. It's gonna kind of shake out. So that's kind of your third level of thinking is like understanding that those cheats do have an impact, but that those impacts are short term. And then I think eventually you end up at like level 4 thinking about this. And the level 4 thinking would be, does this impact my overall goals? It's a way to rise above all the minutia of sort of levels 0 through 3 and think, is this a problem for my long term? Right? If I'm going to sit down and eat kind of a junk meal or, go somewhere for a day and eat nothing but like burgers, French fries, beer, and whatever, the question you should be asking yourself is not, ooh, how's this going to make me feel tomorrow? Or, ooh, did I do enough throughout the week to justify this? Or, okay, I'll do this today, but then I'm going to run on the treadmill for 5 hours tomorrow. The question you should be asking yourself is, does this impact me overall? And there's an implication there, which is you need to know what your goal is to begin with. So for instance, the guy at the gym, he said, I'm going to go ruin my physique on Sunday. Okay, but what's your goal? Because there's two, like I'll give you, kind of a split example, right? On the one hand, if your goal is to look really good on Monday, if that was your goal, if your goal was on that Monday, the day after I'm going to go ruin my physique, I need to look really, really good because I've got like a competition or I don't know, like whatever your reason is, then yeah, you probably shouldn't go out Sunday and have a bunch of beer and crab fries. On the other hand, if your goal is 2 months from now, I need to look my absolute best, or 3 months from now, when beach season rolls around, I want to be lean and good, good to go to the beach or like whatever. Or if your long-term goal is like, I want to be able to run more distance or whatever your goal is, then go ahead on that Sunday. Unless your goal is like, I've got to look top notch on Monday, you're going to be fine. And that's sort of that level 4 thinking is just for it's stepping back from all of it, assuming that you've got you're locked in most of the time. Go enjoy yourself on Sunday. It's going to be fine. Because if your long-term goal is something 2-3 months out, you're not even going to remember that Sunday. It's not going to make any difference in the long run.